Welcome back again, and today we will discuss games, songs, and nursery rhymes to help students to speak, listen and respond. Games and songs are very important in the early stages of the classroom. Many teachers say they never play games and they never sing songs in the classroom. One teacher told me that if his students wanted to watch a movie they could do it at home. A simple thing to remember is that many cultures almost demand singing to remember phrases and use it exclusively to teach. However, many Westerners are afraid to teach by singing. They feel that teaching Mother Goose nursery rhymes to 14-year-olds is childish and beneath them. So they waste a valuable teaching tool. Nursery rhymes and children's songs are good for beginners. Popular songs and games are better for intermediate, and role-playing may be better for advanced students. I found out when I was living in Japan that if I put a phrase in a song form, I remembered it much easier. Games to use in the classroom. I discovered several games to play with the children that they seemed to enjoy. I would only play once or twice a week since my job was to teach them speaking. The following is a list of popular games they liked playing. This is a small list. For a more detailed list of other games, there are several books available, or you can check eslcafe.com, .esllounge.com, level4.html. This website has a wide range of games and other information that is available for beginners up to advanced students. This is a great website for a beginner teacher to learn anything and everything about teaching. Jeopardy is a popular question and answer game in America and throughout the world. The basic principles of the game are quite easy. The teacher asks a question and the student gets to answer. If the student answers correctly, the student gets the points. The way the game is played is simple. The teacher first explains the game and gives a small prize out to the person or team with the most points at the end of the game. To get points, the person or team must answer the question associated with the points. The team has a choice to decide how many points they get to play for before the question is asked. The teacher then asks a sample question so the students understand the game. A sample question would be, "What day is it today?" The students raise their hand and the first student who raises their hand and answers correctly gets to go first. The teacher then writes 5 categories and numbers underneath as below. The categories can be anything you want. Chores, places, tenses. Verbs, irregular verbs. Round 2, the points are doubled. If a team or person gets the question correct, they are rewarded the points. They then can decide how much and what category the next question will be. If they answer incorrectly, another team can steal the points. You can have teams raise their hands in order to answer the question. Another way of playing is going around the room and asking each student to answer a question. This will encourage students who are shy or have to think of an answer to play. This will stop the competition amongst the students to put their hands up quicker than others. At the end of the game, the student who has accumulated the most points wins the game. This game is to promote responding to questions quickly and effectively. Let's Make a Deal is another game to play with beginners of English. This is a game that was played in the 1970s on American television. The contestants wore funny costumes to get selected to be a participant on the show. The host would then ask the contestants if they had odd items on them. The way to play is to ask your students if they have classroom items on them. I'll give you 5 points if you have a pencil sharpener. Go around the room and ask each student if they have something in their bag. Ask randomly about things they should have in the classroom. Make this game as fair as possible. Don't ask one student for an item not found in the country offering outrageous points, while giving high points for a pencil from another. The student with the most points is the winner. After the game is over, give the students a piece of paper with a list of items. The students now have to go home and find those items from their house. This is known as a scavenger list. Items could be as simple as a brush, a comb, music CD, etc., with each item being worth so many points. The student who brings the most items off their list to the class the next day is the winner. The game will help promote everyday vocabulary. I Like You is a speaking game where one student stands in the middle of the class. The other students are sitting around in chairs formed into a circle. There is one less chair than there are students. The student in the middle chooses a student, sitting in a chair, and tells that student they like them. The other student asks why they like them, and the reply has to be a reflective picture of that person that also reflects other students. Student A, I like you. Student B, why do you like me? Student A, I like you because you have black hair. When the statement is said, all the students who have black hair stand up and race around the room to sit in a different chair. This game repeats with the one student left without a chair. This game is to promote the ability to describe people: black hair, white shirt, blue jeans, etc. 20 questions is a game to promote yes/no questions in a way to guess what a person is thinking. The game begins with one student thinking of an object. The student must tell their classmates a general idea of what they are thinking of: person, place or thing. The classmates ask yes/no questions to find out what or whom the student is thinking of. Is it a person? Are they a female? Are they famous? Are they in the room? Students can only ask yes/no questions, and the item the person thinks of must be in the room. Concentration is a former favorite game show in the United States. This game requires that students explain a word without saying it so the other student can guess the word. This is a pair work game. Students are paired into two students. Each pair sits in front of the class and are given 10 cards with words. They have 1 minute to describe and guess the words. The team that has figured out the most words is the winner. This is an excellent vocabulary building game. Example: pizza. How many different ways, without saying pizza, can you think of to describe a pizza? Round, bread, tomato, cheese, food, hot, Italian, meat, sauce, etc. Can you think of any more words to describe a pizza? Vocabulary is a game where you give a topic and tell the students to write down as many of the words that they can think of that matches the topic. Things in the room. The students look around the room for 1 minute and write down everything they can see. The team, or student, who writes the most items wins. Word game. Draw a square on the whiteboard and make 36 small squares inside it. Ask the students to give you one letter of the alphabet to cover each row on the top. On the side, ask the students to give you a topic. The topic can be anything from fruit, drinks, clothing, cities, etc. An example would look something like this: clothing, drinks, places, people, rooms, food. Now ask the class to give you a letter from the alphabet. On the left-hand side of the grid, write one letter of the alphabet by each square. You should now have 6 letters going down the left-hand side of the grid by each box. Now comes the fun part. Each team must now come up with a word that corresponds with the letter of the alphabet. Let's show an example. Clothing. The letter is C. How many parts of clothing can you name that starts with the letter C? The first team must name an article of clothing starting with the letter C. The second team must name a drink with the letter C. This goes on until the first row is done. Then it goes to the second row. If they can correctly name a word, they get the point. If they don't, then the square passes to the next team. It goes until one team has been able to correctly give a word with the letter. If no one can guess a word, no one gets the point, and the teacher, if possible, can tell a word that would fit. The team with the most points wins. Tic-tac-toe is an old children's favorite game. You can use this with a new twist. First, you draw out a tic-tac-toe board on the whiteboard. Write in each square a noun group: clothing, food, etc. You then divide the class into 2 groups. Each group has the chance to pick an item from the noun group one at a time. If they can pick an item from the group they chose, they get the square. If they chose incorrectly, the other team gets a chance to get the square. An example would be clothing, school subjects, fruits, food, countries, vegetables, drinks, cities, animals. In the category food, the students would pick an apple. If they pick a correct fruit, they get the square. If they pick wrong, the other team gets the square if they can pick a word that belongs in the group. The group who gets 3 squares in a row wins. Hangman is a popular children's game played in Western society. One person who thinks of a word plays the game. They then make marks on the board indicating how many words and letters in each clue. An example would be underscore 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 underscore. In this example, there is one word with 5 letters. The other students have to guess which letters are in the word. If the students are correct, then the letter is revealed. In this case, something like this, a student chose the letter L. The letter L is filled in where the letters would go. This will continue until all the letters have been revealed or a student can guess. Underscore underscore LL underscore. Underscore underscore LLO. If a student chooses wrongly, then a picture of a person being hanged is drawn with each wrong answer representing a body part. The game either ends with the word or words being revealed or a full body being drawn. Back to board is a fun game to play with smaller children. One student sits in a chair and has his or her back to the wall. You then write a word on the board. The student now has to ask the other students yes or no questions about the written word to find out what the word means. For example, you write the word elephant on the board. The student now must ask the other students if it's an animal or person, what color it is, etc. He or she continues until they can discover or guess what the word is. You can do variations of this game by writing a sentence and having the student ask questions in order to find the words and put the sentence together. Word search is a classic game used to build word recognition, spelling, and letter patterns. The word search can be found in many magazines or on the internet. Some are themed to holidays or movies. Crosswords. Similar to word searches, the crossword is easy to find on the internet. They give a clue to what the word is and the students have to find the word. Students can use dictionaries if they would like. Pelmanism. In this game, the teacher has about 50 pre-printed cards made up. On one side of the cards are words and the other side is blank. The cards have words printed on them in themes, opposites, occupations, and what they do, similarities, etc. The cards are placed in random order, face, word side, down. The students in order flip 2 cards over. They must match the 2 cards. If they do not match the cards, they flip the cards back over, and then the next student goes and flips 2 cards over while trying to remember the location of the cards previously flipped over. If he or she gets a match, then they pick up the 2 cards and score a point. Bingo is a classic game used by young and old alike in Western society. You use a board with 5 rows that spell bingo. Each row is under a letter. Each row contains 5 squares. When making up boards, you must leave some words off of some papers and mix up the words on all of the papers to prevent 2 papers becoming the same. In this example, we will use letters of the alphabet. You will call out the letters of the alphabet, one at a time, and let the students find and mark the spots of the letters that you say. This game will help work on students' listening, reading, and vocabulary. The teacher can decide on any theme, in this example, the alphabet, and prints up papers for the class with the bingo board. The teacher then discusses the theme to the class and gives instructions. Inside each square on each paper for each student, the teacher writes randomly a word that matches the theme. No 2 papers should be alike to avoid multiple winners, if possible. To play the game, the students are given their paper along with markers to mark off the words the teacher has called. The teacher then calls out a letter, sound, word, noun, adjective, verb, etc., depending on what the teacher wants the theme to be. Each time a student obtains a word that the teacher has called out, he or she puts a marker on it. The student who gets 5 markers in a row wins. Scavenger hunt is a game that takes a little preparation. Before class, the teacher makes a list of everyday items in a house to give to the students. The list could include items like combs, brushes, pencils, etc. The object of the game is the teacher gives the students the list of items and the students have to bring the items to school. The more items they bring, the more points they get. The person or team that brings the most items wins the scavenger hunt. Who said it? This is a game where students are given questionnaires. The student answers each question and puts their name after each answer. The questionnaires are cut up into tiny strips only showing the question, answer, and name of student. Sample questions may be: how long have you gone to this school? How many doors are there in the school? How many classes are there in the school? How many chairs are there in the classroom? After the questions have been collected, the teacher reads the question and answer to the class. The students must decide who answered the question. Golden Bell. Golden Bell is based upon a Korean television show. Students from around the country go on the show and are asked a series of questions. The basis of this game is the students must answer the questions in written form. If they are correct, they can move on to the next question. An example of how the game would go like this. The teacher asks a question for the students and gives them a few seconds to answer it. When the teacher calls, all the students raise their answers over their head. Only the students with the correct answers move on to the next round. This continues until there is only one student left. The final student gets to answer one question in front of the class. The other students can write an answer on paper, and if the student in front of the class can look at all the answers and decide to use one. If the student answers the question correctly, they win the game. Grammar auction. Grammar auction is an auction where the teacher organizes the class into groups. The basis is to have the students look at sentences and decide if a sentence is grammatically correct or not. A typical game would go something like this. The teacher writes on the board 20 sentences. Many will be grammatically wrong and some will be grammatically correct. I am pleased to you. We met ourselves yesterday. I mustn't do that. Me too young to wander far. These can be examples of sentences to write on the board. The students have 10 minutes or less to confer with their classmates. They decide on how much money they want to spend on each sentence if they want it. The object is that the students must only bid and win the sentences that are grammatically correct. If a sentence is incorrect and a group buys it, they lose their money. The team with the most correct sentences wins the game. 9 square. The object of this game is to have the students write as many words as possible from only 9 letters. First you draw a square and divide it into 9 squares. Then you ask the students to give you one letter of the alphabet, which each letter you fill in a blank. Then you give the students 1 minute to write as many words as they can with the 9 letters without using them again. This is a great tool to see how many words they can form and their vocabulary knowledge. A, D, F, S, P, N, T, O, R. Words from above could be sat, fat, rat, drop, top, not, spot, rot, sad, pad, fad, etc. How many other words can you come up with? Remember, when playing games, they are only tests to see how well the students have progressed. They aren't to be used to waste time because you haven't made a lesson plan. Neither are games to be used as a time waster. They should be used moderately and used on review days to make the class more entertaining. Well, that was a lot to take in. Thank you for being here. I hope to see you again.